In 1983, it cost about $81,000 to raise a kid from birth to age 17. The median household at the time earned about $24,000 a year. But today, it cost about $310,000 to raise a kid in the same time period, while the median household pulls in about $70,000 a year. So while our median income has gone up about $45,000 in 40 years, the cost of raising one single kid, has gone up over $200,000 in the same time period. The math ain't mathin' here. Now, there's no easy fix to this. We know this. But there are things that we can do to help improve our finances, making sure that our families are set up for success in the future. Now, don't look at me because I can't help you, but today I'm talking to someone who can. Lindsey Konchar is your favorite financial therapist. As a licensed therapist specializing in financial therapy, Lindsey focuses on the emotional and behavioral aspects of money management. I'll talk about the importance of being fully present with your families, but as these bills pile up and the cost of a single dinner is at least $100, I know that being fully present for your kids can be really challenging. Lindsey was a blast to talk to, incredibly smart, and she offers free 15-minute consultations to folks. I'm just saying. Hey, thanks for being here for episode 15 of Courtside Forever, because as parents, we've got the best seats in the house. Let's enjoy. All right, so we have your favorite financial therapist, a mental health professional, a mom of two, an author, and the host of the podcast Financial Self-Care. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Lindsey Konchar with us today. Lindsey, how are you doing?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, no, I'm thrilled to get connected with you and Threads. I enjoy Threads because there's so many different aspects of connection that happens really organically. And I'm such a big fan of that. But before we dive in, I have to start here. Speaking of Threads. So, on January 7th, you shared on Threads that a podcast that you pitched to be a guest on requested that you pay $10,000 to appear on their show. So my question is, I'm sorry, what?
I know. Isn't that crazy? And
that's wild.
I just got another... I pitched to another podcast, and she's requesting $2,000. And I'm like, is this the direction we're going in? Because I am not here for it. This should be accessible to I'm struggling with both of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to ask you what those podcasts were specifically, but what was your initial response when you got that email to say, oh, Lindsey, so great. Yes, we'd love to have you on podcast. Pay us $10,000. How did you respond to that?
I was in pure shock, absolute shock and appalled. I could not believe that was the response. And in fact, the first one, I know a woman, personally, who was interviewed on that podcast about 2 years ago. So I reached out to her and I was like, did you pay $10,000 to be on this podcast? And she was like, absolutely not. I would never. What in the world? What is the world coming to? We were both just having a moment. And yeah. I honestly don't even know if I responded to that one. The second one that requested the $2,000, I was like, that's really nice. I am not in a position to pay for that. What are your free options? And they actually literally 2 minutes got back to me and said, there are no free options at this point. I was like, okay, well, great doing business with you. Moving on.
Wow. That is insane. Obviously, I've kind of back in the podcasting game. I interview people for a living. Years ago, I had a podcast. And so when I saw that, I was like, I can't believe it. Is this a thing? And even in the responses, which I think you had hundreds of responses, there was a lot of feelings. Was there one specific response that you got that was kind of extra funny or kind of really resonated with you?
Mostly just everyone's response was the same as mine. It's just we could not believe that was a thing. What is interesting, though, is I had a couple reach out to me that, DM me on Instagram and said, can I guess which one? And I said, sure, go for it. They guessed because they've had the same experience with a different podcaster who's in the same kind of sphere as the woman who I had pitched to. And so it does seem like maybe that's like trending in that direction, but it just, to me, it feels kind of icky. I can't imagine, I mean, as a podcast host, I can't imagine charging somebody 10 grand. Like it feels really, it like gatekeeps again. It's like, okay, so you're just trying to keep your sphere small and you want only the people that are like, you know what I mean? It just feels weird and gross to me. So I'm like, okay, and I will not be listening to your podcast again. Thank you. Goodbye.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. If anything, like I even having you on it, I'm so excited to get into this conversation. I felt like, you know, you bring so much value to the point that I was like, I feel like it should be reversed. I feel like people should be paying you. Now, you know, hopefully I don't want to get down that end, because I would love to have you on. I do love having you on. I love to have other people on. So like the whole pay to play scheme is a little off, but like you bring so much. I feel like they should be paying you $10,000. And quite frankly,
well,
I
thanks.
should be paying
That's
you $10,000.
how I should respond. Is like, hey, actually, I charge $10,000, so it's a wash, and let's get going. Let's schedule. Like that's a good response.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. Now, Lindsey, you are a financial therapist, and personally, I'd never heard of that term before, but I absolutely love it. So now, as a financial therapist, what are some of the things that you focus on with clients?
So I am a licensed therapist first and foremost. So I've been licensed since 2019. So for me, mental health and like how we move through the world is really important to make sure that we are practicing whole body wellness. And so then when the financial, component comes in, for so long, finances have been very like, this is what the numbers say, so this is what you do. And for me, that's just not how I operate at all. Like, it needs to be recognized that money is very emotional. Whether we're buying something from an emotional standpoint, or we're trying to escape an emotion, or whatever it is. And so I think bringing that aspect into the money can be so important.
Oh, I can only imagine. And obviously you touch on being a mental health professional, but you're also a mom of two. And about 2.5 years ago, you also released a book titled, I Got 99 Coping Skills, and Being a B Ain't One. I don't know people can probably swear on this. I personally don't have a problem with it, but helping people seems to be a through line of your work. So I'll ask, how did you get into both the mental health and the financial space? Yeah.
So for me, I was always kind of destined to be in counseling or in therapy or whatever the case may be. That was my trajectory I graduated with my degree in psychology. I took a year off and worked, actually went and did AmeriCorps. And then, it was very cool. And then I worked at an inpatient psych hospital. Like, that's just kind of always been my line of work. And then on the personal side of things, my husband and I have been on our own financial self-care journey for years and years and years now. And so I've been very passionate about the understanding that really the more money you have, the more options you have, which means the safer you are, the more secure you are, the healthier you can be. All of these things really come back to how financially secure are you. And I was finding that in some of the work I was doing with my clients is they had insecurities around their job or the income that they were making, or they were in a really toxic work environment but couldn't get out of it because they were relying so heavily on their paychecks that they were living paycheck to paycheck, et cetera. Like there's so many layers to it. Yeah. I did not know that financial therapy was a thing until 2022. I should say 2022, in the fall of 2022, I was super pregnant with my son, and I had gone to a personal development conference. And in that moment, I just knew, like, I had this pull where I was like, I want to be doing something with money, but I'm a therapist. Like, who's going to listen to me? Fast forward 6 months, I was driving, listening to an audiobook and unrelated to money or anything of that nature, but the author had spoken the words financial therapist. And I was on my street. I pressed pause. I pulled into my driveway, ran into the door. My husband was like, "What? Are you okay?" And I was like, "I need to Google something right now." And I literally did. I went straight to my laptop, Googled it, and turns out, because I have my master's in social work, that I qualified for the certification of being a financial therapist. And so I, looked into the different programs, and it really unlocked this thing for me where I was like, I get to merge the two things that I am so passionate about. And now I get to help people in their own financial self-care journey. And it's like that saying, when you look back and all the dots connect, it was like such a moment for me. And now I'm actively doing the thing that feels so aligned. So that was a very long-winded way of saying that's kind of how I found my path and my calling on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I am so glad you found that calling, because it is incredibly important to talk about money. And before we kind of dive into the rest of it, being a financial therapist and, of course, a mental health professional, I'm sure you get all sorts of questions. But when you go to like a kid's birthday party and you're just kind of like talking with parents and things like that, and they ask, "Oh, what do you do?" Do you say I'm a financial therapist? And if so, what are their responses? What do they say to that?
I love to talk about the fact that I'm a financial therapist, because everyone's response is the same. It's like such curiosity, such interest, and then they think, oh, I think I need that. And it's so funny. Yes. And then they never call me because, of course, they know me and they feel super uncomfortable and whatever. But it is such a necessary thing. Like we just all really need it. Because again, money is emotional. It's been so taboo for so long. Or there's like old white guys shouting at you for being an idiot because you don't know anything about money, even though you were never taught anything about money, right? And so yes. we're here changing the game a little bit.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. And, you talk about, I've seen the word shame-free all throughout your website, and I'm such a big fan of that phrasing. So when it comes to achieving financial goals, why do you think so many parents feel this deep sense of shame when really trying to get back on track financially?
For a couple of reasons. One, again, we were never taught money growing up. Like usually it wasn't taught in the house, and anything that you learned was very implicit and very like a lot of mixed messages. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Like all of these things were told to you, and yet you were just told we can't afford that, but then they would come home with like a multi-$100 thing and you were like, wait, but I wanted that $10 toy. Like, why couldn't, so like, and we like so have all of these messages that are confusing. Plus it was unlikely that you were taught personal finance in school. And so then the day you turn 18, now you're adult. You should just understand it. That's how it goes. You should figure it out like the rest of us. And it feels so complicated because money can be complicated. We complicate it. Okay. And so then there's like this pressure on us to like know how to do something that we were never taught, never had resources for. And then there's so much shame that builds up because it's all kept in this big dark box. And we don't talk to our friends about it. We don't talk to our spouses about it. We don't talk to our parents about it. We don't talk to anybody about it. And we know that shame grows in darkness, right? And so when you can get to the other side of that and like peek in the box and let a little light in and understand what is really happening with your money, all of a sudden that shame starts shrinking and you can spend money. It is a skill to learn how to spend money well, just as it is a skill to learn how to save money and invest money well and handle it all together. But because we're so alone in the journey, we allow that shame to just build and grow and compound, right? So opening up that box can be a real big help.
Oh, for sure. And that personal story obviously resonates with a lot of different people. And, on your website, I love because you actually talked about your money story. And when talking about your parents, you said that my parents hardly talked about money. And if money was talked about, it was fought about. Money constantly felt scarce and was a source of contention for the majority of my life. So now I know that you talk to a lot of folks about this. So my question for you is, how can couples today avoid fighting about money?
Such a good question. This is why I love my couples work, because everybody's money story is unique to them, right? There's no possible way that you and your partner have had the exact same money journey. There might be a couple through lines, but usually we marry the person who's had like the total opposite experience of us, right? And then there's really not a ton of intentionality when we're actually talking about our finances. Many of the couples I work with are like, well, I don't know, we've just been kind of doing this for the last decade, and now we're kind of like, well, maybe we actually should be sharing the cost of groceries. Like, it's just never really evaluated. And again, there's not a lot of intentionality because we were never taught how to have these positive money conversations. And so often couples come to me because they don't feel like they're on the same page. They feel like they're just only fighting about money. one person is ordering Amazon boxes and there's another 3 that come to the door, and then that partner's yelling, and there's a lot of defensiveness and resistance, and right. And so then I can come in and say, well, actually, we need to first have a positive money conversation. And what I really encourage my couples to do is don't even talk about the numbers. Like, don't even go there yet, because clearly it's not working, right? So instead, let's just talk about our goals. Talk about what we're excited for in our life. Talk about what we see for ourselves, the travels that we want to have together, the experiences we want to have as parents and as families. What does that look like? And then we can start putting money and actual numbers to those goals. But unless you're able to really see a big future for yourself, the numbers mean nothing. It's what the numbers can do for you that means something.
Oh, I love that. And how, for your typical clients, like, how do you work with people? Do you meet with people weekly? Is it monthly? Is it on an annual basis? What does that look like?
Yeah, good question. So usually with my individuals and my couples, it's kind of the same process. We have an initial session, which is an 80-minute session. And I just talk through, first I should say we do a free consultation always, just to make sure that I'm what you're looking for and it's a good fit for all of us. But then if you're ready to, get moving on this, then it's that 80-minute. And where we talk through some of the scenarios. How are you making purchasing decisions? How are you conversing about money in your household? How does money move through your household? Like, what are your account structures looking like? And then it's really important to go back and talk about, how did you grow up around money? What are some of the messages that you are holding internally that we need to start exposing and talking about with your partner? And then we start getting into those goals. And that's a super fun conversation. We get to dream together, because as parents, dreaming is for our kids. We forget that we still should be dreaming, right? And so we make time and space for that. And then we get into the numbers. And so often, right away, I'm seeing people weekly for maybe 3 to 4 sessions. Then we start moving them out to bi-weekly, after a couple months of that, maybe monthly, and then I move them to maintenance. And I'm what's called a solutions-focused brief therapist. So while we talk about where you've come from with money, I don't dwell, I don't sit there, I don't do deep inner child work, that kind of stuff. Super important. Love the therapists that do that. Just not for me. I'm very action oriented. I'm all right, let's get into the numbers. Let's make a plan for you. And I give my clients homework so they can do some work outside of our sessions together. But I don't want you on my caseload for 2 years. I want you on my caseload for a little while, get you situated, get you 85% of the way, 95% of the way there. And then you can move on, spread your wings, have these wonderful, beautiful conversations with your partner, feel like you're on the same page, teach your kids money. And that's how it looks.
Oh, that is great. Now, obviously, outside of your website, how do people typically find you? Is it through social media? Where are people contacting you?
Yeah, so a lot of people are finding me through Instagram, which is really weird and funny, because for a long time I wasn't doing that, and now it's oh yeah, I found you on Instagram. I'm okay, cool. And then a lot of referrals. I'm on a lot of podcasts, so I have some clients come to me that way, but a lot of it is, oh, my friend worked with you, and so now I want to work with you, which is great. It's proof of concept. I like it.
It is. And you've been really open about sharing your story. And I know after you became a mom, you struggled with what you call the trifecta of postpartum mental illness. But in your healing, you started to make yourself a priority by doing things like taking hikes and asking your community for help. Course Head Forever is all about being a present parent for your kids. So what are some actionable items that you could give to parents to really help them be more present at home?
Yes, this is one of my favorite things. Really, when everything boils down to me in my world, in my work, in my professional life, in my personal life, everything comes down to intentionality. And when I first had my daughter, there was a moment that I will probably never forget, though maybe I should. I was quite literally breastfeeding her while vacuuming, and I was making homemade jam on the stove, which, mind you, I should preface this by saying I do not belong in the kitchen. I have no business being in there because I am so bad at cooking. And it was like this, and my daughter was probably 4 months at the time, maybe 3 months, and I I had this idea of what a good mom looked like. You know, she's the one who's like churning her own butter and doing like this crazy stuff. And I remember as I was having this crazy moment, I vacuumed past my full length mirror in my living room, and I looked at myself and I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I enjoyed my breastfeeding journey with my daughter, but again, I don't belong in the kitchen anywhere near it. I don't belong, you know, not that I actually don't mind vacuuming, but it was just like this moment of being like, what are you doing? Yeah. And so I really started taking time to think about like, what do I want for myself? What do I want to show my kids? I want to show my kids that I actually am a priority to myself. Yeah. I want to be outside. I want to be doing these things. And so very shortly after that, my daughter and I went on a girls' trip, our very first one. We scheduled a little trip up north, and we went on a big hiking trip, and she was in the pack, and I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do the things that I did, you know, before becoming a mom, and integrate my kids into the things that I also love. Not forcibly, but like now my kids love to go on hikes. Like we go as a family all the time, right? And that's just as beautiful of motherhood as somebody who wants to be making the bread and the jam and the butter and like whatever. All of that is great. It's just not for me. And so what I tell to parents is we need to stop comparing ourselves to everyone else on social media. We need to stop listening to these messages that we're getting about what a good parent looks like, what a good mom or a dad or whomever looks like, and instead decide for yourself what that means, and then start using your money as a way to like facilitate that life and what you see as a good fit for you, not what everyone else tells you is a good fit.
Now, you have so much incredible advice, obviously on this podcast, but going through your blog, I loved it. And on your blog, you have a number of great articles, including how the 9 Enneagram types manage money. I know there's going to be a lot of our listeners who enjoy that. How to stop grandparents from buying too many gifts, and money dates was another one I love. So one of my favorites, though, was how to teach kids about money. And in this piece, you talk about the challenges that parents face when teaching financial literacy. So could you expand on some of the challenges that you've seen and maybe a couple effective strategies that you found for overcoming this?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we have this idea that like when we're gonna have kids, that we're gonna change all these things, right? Like we're gonna be super healthy and we're gonna like get our money under control so we can teach our kids money. And the reality is, as parents, we get tired real quick. So unless it goes back to that intentionality, right? Unless you are intentionally making time to do these things, it's gonna be really hard to just like implement all of this stuff right away. Again, my lens and from what my personal experience has been, and obviously my professional experience, is like, if you can get a handle on your money and teach that to your kids early and often, what a beautiful thing. Like to make their lives ultimately easier is so cool. So like, I'm a big advocate for like prioritizing that. But what you have to do is like, if you yourself don't feel confident in managing money well, then start there. Like you need to learn in order to pass that knowledge on to your kids, right? And so it's okay if that is actually your first step. It's not like teaching your kids a bunch of crap that you don't know. That's overwhelming and intimidating. Start learning it for yourself. And I really encourage parents to be open with their kids and say, you know what, mommy never learned how to manage my money, and now I want to learn about it. Do you want to come on this journey with me? And if your kid is 4 years old or 14 years old, they're going to be like, cool, yeah, I want to learn about money, because kids are actually very interested in it. Most of them. Of course, I mean, you know your kid, and if they're not, then they're not. Don't force it on them. But most kids that I have encountered, and like I have gone into high schools and given presentations on this, and literally like last spring, I went to a high school at 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, and the teacher was like, Lindsey, you are the last of the day, so they're going to like run out of here. And I was like, stampede, got it, I'll move to the side. And literally after I was done kind of giving my spiel, over a third of the class lined up to ask me questions about what to do with their summer mowing money. Like, kids care about this stuff, and we yet put this belief that, like, oh, they're in high school, they're dumb kids, they're not gonna know. I'm like, no, this is not true. So especially if as a parent you can get excited about it and show them that, like, it is possible to have positive money conversations, they will be excited about it. So I think that's a really good place to start. And then secondly, like, my daughter is 4. We just started implementing allowance with her. Like, she felt ready. We had the conversation. Being responsible with money it's a big responsibility. So we want to make sure that you feel good about it. And she was like, I want to do it. And we created a plan. We were really proactive in creating this plan of how we wanted to do it, and do it so it didn't fall by the wayside. Because I think a lot of times we, like, start these things and it just kind of, like, trickles off. Yeah. And so I was proactive in, I went and got like $200 of $1 bills from the bank. I got a little money box from Facebook Marketplace, so we have a spot for it. And then every Wednesday we kind of like did the habit stacking thing where, like, right before they go to their, like, mommy and me class, we go, and yeah, it's a fun thing. But right before we go there, we do allowance with my daughter. And so we look at her little chore chart, and did she do the things that, you know, we're asking that she does? Some people like to attach it to chores. Some people don't. There's a whole debate about it. Honestly, do what works for you. That's my advice on that.
For sure. I love that.
But we had a plan, and we got her a little box of, like, okay, this is your invest jar, this is your save jar, this is your give jar, this is your spend jar. And she gets $4. She puts $1 in each jar, and we talk about it, and it's exciting, and, like, we make it a fun activity for her, and we make it consistent. So that, yeah, there's just so many ways to, like, make money fun for your kids and to, like, get them excited about what it can do for them.
Oh, absolutely. And you speak to, I don't know if it was this article or another one, but you talk about the emotional intelligence, how that's really a significant predictor of financial success. So with that, you know, how can parents foster this emotional, you know, intelligence in their children to improve their financial futures?
100%. Again, you need to be emotionally intelligent. So anything that I'm talking about with your kids, really, like, you got to look in the mirror first and be like, okay, yes, this applies to me. But one of the things, going back to that allowance scenario that we didn't just do chores that are like, pick up your books. That is one of them. But we also did, like, are you good at sharing with your brother? Have we noticed that you're doing these things that, like, any time I think about, like, future stuff for my kids, part of being a good employee is not just doing your work, but it's also fostering a healthy community or a work culture, right? Like, there's a lot of emotional intelligence things that come into play when you need to be a good human being who's earning money. And so we want to start fostering some of that early now, where we're like, this is what it means to be respectful. This is what it means to be, you know, sharing and doing nice things for other people. This is what it means to give. This is what, and so having some of those emotional intelligence skills are really important.
Oh, that is so good. Now, the emotional intelligence we've talked about the kids, but when it comes to the parents and everything like that, you also mentioned in other articles that setting a North Star for financial goals is incredibly important. So if you could, what is your North Star when it comes to your financial future? Obviously not getting too deep into yours, but, like, you know, what is your North Star?
No, I'm open book here. I can talk about all of them. So for me, any goal that you have can become a North Star. So I like to think about it as, like, those are your guiding lights. And so for us, like, the main thing that I am, obsessed with is probably actually a fair way to say it, is connection. That is something that I value across the span of my life, whether it's a connection with my husband, connection with my kids, connection with my friends, connection with my parents, whatever that looks like, whoever it is, I really want to foster those connections. That's high on my priority list. That's highly something, you know, something I really value. And so for me, when I'm thinking about how I want to show up with my money, is I'm happy to spend money on going on a girls' trip because it means that I'm fostering those connections. I'm happy to spend money on date nights with my husband and to hire the babysitter because I am fostering the connection and nurturing that relationship. So I'm a highly relational person. So that when we're talking about values-based spending or intentional spending, that's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in understanding about you. Like maybe your North Star is going to be a little bit different. And these are not set in stone. They can change with different seasons of life and what it looks like. But for me personally, I am far less concerned with stuff and clothes and just like the overconsumption that American culture really is. And I'm far more interested in, again, that connection piece. But what that looks like then is spending money on activities and experiences with my family.
I love that. The experiences, I feel like millennials get a lot of blame for a lot of different things regarding the economy. But I will say, I feel like we're really good at experiences and really spending money on those types of things. Because a trip, there's nothing like it. The vacation, certainly nothing like that. And really spending time with friends, you know how it is. Like you have 2 little kids, and sometimes that connection isn't easy to have with a significant other, or certainly with friends and things like that. So I'm such a big fan of that North Star, and hopefully other people can do that as well. So now at the end of each episode, I like to ask my guests about something related to maybe a fictional character, whether in movies or books or TV or anything like that. But in my research, I found that you are a big fan of the show Friends. So, my question for you is a little bit of a deep cut. And honestly, as I put this together, I was like, this is probably a terrible podcast question, but I think it's very specific for you. So, I'm going to go with it. And in the episode of Friends, the one where Eddie won't go, we found out that Joey's character made some comically bad financial decisions. So, I know Joey came to Ross, and Ross was very, it was a contentious conversation that ended well at the end. But let's say Joey came to you looking for financial advice in terms of what to do in that conversation, or in that situation. What advice would you have given to Joey?
Well, I probably would have been a little nicer to him. Ross was a little cut and dry. And he thought he was doing his best, but again, his best was not really that good. And that, that happens. But I would, oh my God, I love this question. This is my favorite. I would have talked to Joey and said, okay, what are we thinking? How did this happen? And I probably would have just, validated his experience a little bit. This is like a actual real life thing that people get so caught up in lifestyle creep and like that. This is a real issue. And so I probably would have educated him a little bit around, now you're on your own and you're trying to really bulk up your apartment with some crazy things. But again, say it really nicely. And then we would have explained maybe how some of those things probably didn't bring him or bring up his baseline level of happiness, right? We know that those friends, they care about their connection. They care about time together. What they don't care about as much is all that crap. So maybe that Jaguar coffee table that he had, albeit really interesting and different, did he need that, or did he want to go to restaurants or whatever with his friends? And so that's the angle I like to play is okay, what I will say is interesting because I just put out that Enneagram and money episode. Joey is an Enneagram 9. He is the peacemaker of the friends. And so he wants to keep the peace. So conflict and confrontation is not his strong suit. So I would take that into consideration upon, talking to him. So I don't even know. This is such a good question. I could really noodle on this for a while, but that's probably how I would maybe approach him.
I love it. I should have taken all of my questions and just really made them Friends themed. This one, as I was putting together,
do that, please, next time.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've seen every episode of Friends a billion times, but I did have to do some research. I was like, what was that episode called? And even in my research, I found the one. I remembered, I think it was from season 2, where the 3 of them who had money, they were going out to dinner with the 3 who maybe didn't. And I thought about going that direction, but I was like, it's a little difficult to kind of go that one. But I always loved how Ross at the very end was like, oh, let me get, let me purchase one of these things for you. And what do you get? The porcelain dog?
Yes, the porcelain dog. Pat the dog.
Pat the dog. Oh my goodness, I love it. And now I'll say this is kind of timely because you're going on a girls trip. So if you had to go on a trip or a vacation with any of the friends, who are you going with? And where are you going?
Rachel is probably my favorite of all of them. I mean, I love them all. Well, I don't know. Joey's really funny too. Monica's a little too rigid for me. I don't think we would travel super well together. So I'm going to go ahead and say Rachel. And we would probably go, I don't know, maybe like Greece or I mean, Portugal's like high, like top on my list of places where I really want to go. So maybe we would go there. That would probably be where we'd end up.
I love it. I love it. Love the answer. Love the conversation. Lindsey, where can the people find you?
I am on Instagram, only Instagram, and I am financial therapist Lindsey, so I'm pretty easy to find there. I am a solopreneur still, so it is me answering you in the DM. So if you want to come, ask me a question or tell me you listen to this episode, it'd be so fun to talk to you. My podcast, you already said it, but I'll say it again, is Financial Self-Care. You can find that, everywhere. And then my blog is financialselfcareblog.com. So a bunch of information and resources on there. My email's on there. Again, pop in, say hi, whatever. I love to connect with people. It's my favorite.
Oh, so cool. And I'm such a fan of yours and such a fan of the work that you're doing. Incredibly important stuff. And Lindsey, I cannot thank you enough for coming on Courtside Forever. So Lindsey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here for another episode of Courtside Forever, where our goal is to ensure that parents enjoy the best seats in the house. If you enjoy this episode, share it with a friend or two, and feel free to reach out with any comments or questions. I'm your host, Ryan Rucker, and I appreciate you being here. Take care.